Hello and welcome to a new podcast from the Belt and Road Institute in Sweden. My name is Hussein Askary. Today is Sunday, August 22nd, 2021. Exactly a week ago, the world woke up to find out that the US-backed president of Afghanistan, Ashraf Ghani, had left the country, and the government, his government collapsed, and suddenly the Taliban movement was in the streets of Kabul, taking over the capital of Afghanistan, following 20 years of US and NATO presence in that country. Now, what we have seen also reported in the Western media here in Sweden, in Europe, the United States, was panicked scenes of people fleeing the capital. We have people packed in the airport, hanging on the wings of airplanes, trying to leave the country. And the reporting was that this was a new disaster for Afghanistan. There will be war and bloodshed and so on and so forth. Now, the mission of the Belt and Road Institute in Sweden is not to analyze and discuss security and political matters or military matters. Our mission is to figure out how to present objective information and ideas on how the East and West can work together to establish peace, economic development, and stability around the world, using the Belt and Road Initiative as a modus operandi. Now, some other people, we will discuss how the Belt and Road could become Afghanistan's road to peace and stability and development. And to discuss these matters, I have with me our friend, Mr. Shakeel Ahmad Ramay. He's the founder and president of the Asian Institute of Eco-Civilization in Pakistan, Islamabad. Welcome, Shakeel.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your nice words.
Okay. Well, while the reporting here in Sweden and Europe and the United States was all these horror scenes, and panic, and that there will be major disaster. I don't know how the situation looked from where you are, Shakeel. And how did you view the situation?
Look, first of all, thank you so much for organizing this very special talk. When we look at the situation, we were expecting, so there will be a takeover, but we were not expecting it will be so quick and fast, because we were expecting there is an army of 300,000 people, which will take time to surrender in front of the Taliban. But this army just appeared. That is one story. Other part of the story is, so what's the panic where people are showing? The panic is limited to a very, you can say, the specified area that is near to the Kabul airport and some other, you can say, the elite class who want to flee the country. Anyway, so they want to flee the country because the lifestyle they were enjoying during the occupation and their connections with the elite class. So maybe that is not possible anymore, because we know that the Taliban, they have a set code of the governance and the social reforms in the country. So they will maybe go back to that. And these are people who are being shown at the TV screens around the Kabul airport. These are the same people who was working with the US government, either in one capacity or another capacity. Either they were the contractor, they were the NGO workers, they were like the development workers, so-called development workers, because if they were the development workers or something like that, we can see some change in the livelihoods of the people. Yeah. Anyway, so these people want to flee the country. And who is controlling the airport? That is a fundamental question. That is American army there. So if there is some panic, that is still due to the American army, because they're not allowing the common people to enter to the airport. So it is not due to the Taliban. So what we are looking at that, if we look at the other parts of the country, because Afghanistan is a big country, especially if their majority of their population lives in the rural areas. According to the World Bank, it's around about 74% population is living in the rural areas. So that is a huge number of the 74% of the population. So they're living there. So we are not seeing such panic there. And we did not see any type of the resistance there when the Taliban was working. Even when the US and the NATO were in Afghanistan, Taliban were ruling those areas, rural areas, because they were more close to them. So if we, again, coming back to your question, the panic is very limited to the people who want to flee the country. The purpose is to just settle abroad in the Europe or the USA, they seek the asylum. So this is a good opportunity to present themselves as, you can say, so the move there. So that is, I think, that the problem is right at this point of time.
Okay, but it was surprising also. We saw that there was no fighting in the capital or anywhere else. Everything was moving smoothly, and then there were some interesting signals sent by the Taliban in their first press conference about that there will be no revenge, there will be no vendetta against people, even those who work with the Americans, that people could go back to the work. There were the question of women and girls going to school or to work, but also they're interestingly, they said that they will seek help from other countries to reconstruct the country, that they will not allow Afghanistan to become a hub for terrorist groups attacking the neighboring countries. And also they said they will stop the opium production, which is a big problem for all neighboring countries and the world. I mean, these signals were sent out, and then there was this process of negotiations with other partners to establish a government. Now, this is not really whether the Taliban have changed or not changed. This is not our subject of discussion, but I think what I would like to focus on is the whole BRI situation, but also the fact that the neighboring countries are going to play the major role. Now, I have a very interesting picture. It was published as a tweet by the Pakistani ambassador in Kabul, in Afghanistan, sitting with the Chinese ambassador. That was the day after Taliban took over Kabul. And you see they're sitting there calmly, drinking soft drinks and discussing. There is no panic. And while everybody else was evacuating with helicopters, with airplanes, and so on. Now, this is interesting. Also, the fact that the Russian embassy, the Iranian embassy, and other nations from Central Asia did not evacuate. Now, what is the secret behind this calmness?
I think there is no secret. I think it is very open. So Pakistan, Iran, and China, so they are already working very closely with the Afghan people. Not I'm talking about the Taliban, not I'm talking about the government of Afghanistan. So that the countries are working with them, people of Afghanistan for a long time. And you know that the Pakistan is a host to the largest community of Afghan refugee community in Pakistan. Iran also have a very huge share, although there are certain points which people almost talk about, but Iran also have. In the recent years, China have shown the immense interest in economic linkages, and they have invested in different projects and programs in exploration of minerals and also in energy things. So they are already working there. So they were working. The difference between China, Pakistan, Iran, and West is that the Western country, they were listening towards the elite. They were working with the people who were looked towards like that, who were telling them, you are the best people in the world, what you are doing the best. But they were ignoring the common people. So what people are thinking about at the ground level, as I told you. So if you look at the poverty level in Afghanistan, it is around about 51 point something. That's a multidimensional poverty. That is a figure from the government, which some people doubt also. So if you look at the poverty, that is more concentrated in the rural areas or the far off areas, not in the cities. When the Western countries, they were mostly working with the people from the cities. So they did not have the right, you can say, the right analysis of the people, what they're thinking, what they're not thinking. But the Iran, Pakistan, they were all working at the grassroots level and through these refugees. And in the context of the Pakistan, hundreds and thousands of people every day cross the border for the different things, for the prisoners, for the medical treatment, for education, for a number of things. So we have the better, you can say, the Pakistan had the better understanding of the situation, what is happening there. So, and Pakistan and China and Iran, they were working together also. So they were sharing the information with each other and working together how to counter the situation, whatever they come in the coming days or months. And they were well prepared before the, you can say, the complete withdrawal of the US forces from Afghanistan. So that make them so very cool, and you can say the cool. So they seems that they prepared for the situation for a long time, and they have the
no, I one thing which it drew my attention is because, I mean, both you and I were already in July talking about the situation in Afghanistan. In both, there was a Schiller Institute conference we participated in long before these events developed. But at the same time, in July, I mean, already last year in July, the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi visited Central Asia after the United States and Taliban had reached their agreement, that to organize for the eventual developments that will happen after the United States and NATO evacuate. Now, I think he met also with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization foreign ministers, and they set a number of points on fighting terrorism, of course, but one of the important points was the idea of economic reconstruction in Afghanistan through the BRI and extending the Belt and Road Initiative into Afghanistan. Now, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is very, very interesting because that's the natural environment where Afghanistan is placed. It includes Russia, China, Pakistan, and India, who are at the moment rivals, but they're both members there. And Iran and Afghanistan are observers, and Turkey also is aspiring to become a member. But Iran will be included, I guess. Both Russia and China want to include Iran as a full member. But all these nations, they are embracing Afghanistan. I think that's the natural thing to do, to have these nations dealing with this situation in Afghanistan, rather than nations from overseas who neither share culture, language, history, economy, or anything with the Afghani people.
So look, Afghanistan needs at this point of the time economic assistance. Economic assistance, not in the form of the loans or something like that. Economic assistance which can help them to reconstruct the infrastructure. If you look at the issues of Afghanistan, there are 2 or 3 issues very important which we have to see at this point of time. Number one, so they are food insecurity. 12.5 million people, they are food insecure in Afghanistan according to WFP in 2019. And 12.5 million people, they are, you can say, what you can say, the severely food insecure. They are not normal food insecurity. Second, they need a huge investment in infrastructure. Third, so they need investment in the skills and the capacity, because the Taliban and the other young people of the Afghanistan, especially from the rural areas, due to the continuous war of this war or the conflict for the last 40 years. So they could not get to the required education, or they could not develop the skills which are required for the industry or the industry or infrastructure building. So they need investment there also. The fourth area is education for health. So that is also needed there very importantly. These are 4 areas where Afghanistan need help at this point of the time. And I think the regional countries, like China, they have the best available instruments where they can create the help for the China, for Afghanistan, like through the BRI. And very easily we can, Pakistan and China can extend the CPAC towards Afghanistan. And we can also, Afghanistan is an ideal country to connect, because on the one side of Afghanistan, there is a China, Central Asia, and West Asia corridor of BRI. On other side of Afghanistan, there is a corridor with the name of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So there, Afghanistan is in the middle of that. These both, if Afghanistan can be used to connect these both corridors, it will be really help for the Afghanistan and also for the South Asia and Central Asia, because Central Asia is looking towards connect to the warm waters, and through Afghanistan they can reach to the warm waters. Like north of Uzbekistan, they have taken an initiative. Pakistan, Uzbekistan, and Afghanistan, they are going to sign a trilateral agreement for the transit trade. So that agreement will be then opening for the rest of the Central Asia. And the Central Asia can provide the energy to the South Asia. And South Asia will also look for how they can connect to other Central Asia to benefit from their emerging market. So that is very important thing. But I also strongly feel, so there is also need a new corridor. Maybe that the connected corridor, which you always advocate, you know, that 3-4 months back I was talking about the corridor of peace and prosperity. So with the objective of that is prosperity for the people. And I think the prosperity is very close to the heart of the Chinese government. So they can help. Or if you look at the Iran already have extended their Herat and Kaf and Herat railway road. They can further extend to the other parts of the country, because they can connect it to the other part. And you want to say something?
Yeah, we will come to some of these corridors, which are very fascinating. But what the point you were making is that Afghanistan, 20 years with, the human cost was huge in these wars. 71,000 civilians killed in both Afghanistan and Pakistan, actually.
No. 71,000 only in Pakistan.
Only
in Afghanistan, yes. If you talk about Afghanistan, hundreds of thousands. Though later, if you look at the minimum number for during the US war, it is around more than 200,000. They were giving it was given by the US soldier, which is not being accepted by the people. So
Okay.
then in Afghanistan, number is a very huge, which has been not talked so much.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. So there was a huge human cost. The United States and NATO spent more than $1 trillion in these 20 years, but nothing had any effect on the living conditions or building infrastructure or any of the things you are talking about to alleviate the situation. Now, around Afghanistan, in these 20 years, the world has changed. I mean, not only China has become the most powerful industrial powerhouse in the world, the thing is the largest economy when it comes to productivity, but also all the neighbors of Afghanistan. I mean, Pakistan, where you are, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, since the Belt and Road Initiative was initiated, is witnessing massive development with potential to transform Pakistan's economy. We had all Central Asian nations working on the Belt and Road. Iran, in spite of all the economic sanctions, is still building infrastructure. As you said, they just recently finished a railway to Herat from eastern Iran. So all these 20 years, Afghanistan was not really included in any of these developments. So there was this missing element because everything was focused on the military solution, but also geopolitics, how to avoid working with Russia, China, Iran, how to pit one force against the other. And that's, I think, this geopolitical aspect was the most destructive thing. So there was a very big missing element in the whole situation, as you say. Now we have, you have special interest, of course, on the question of human development and the youth. This is a map of where the Afghani population is concentrated, and it's there is it's split by these mountain barriers, but therefore these corridors have to be built. But one aspect of the population, this is a demographic map of the distribution of the age groups, and it's incredible. I mean, you have, of the 39 million people, I think more than 60% are below the age of 30. You know, you have, but the majority of them are below the age of 10 or 15, sorry. So you have an enormous human resource. I mean, the people who are above 65 years of age are only 2% of the population, but also it's due to the short living, the mortality, the lifespan is very short in Afghanistan. It's in the 62 years, I guess. So in any case, you have enormous human resource, which needs to be invested in. We have, Afghanistan has natural resources, and this is another interesting aspect, which everybody's talking about, that Afghanistan has $3 trillion of natural minerals. Well, it's true. You cannot count it in money, but it's true. Physically, there is massive special minerals like lithium, beryllium, tantalum, copper, and iron, and all these things that are necessary for the modern economy. The United States Geological Survey itself made a massive study of all of Afghanistan in these past years. There's a report by the US Geological Survey, and it has very detailed information about where these. But the problem is, you know, that people who write that there are $3 trillion of lithium and all that stuff there, they don't really understand how minerals are extracted, because you cannot, you know, they think that there is lithium there in the mountains. You just go dig and put it in a box and sell it in the market. This is not how it works. If you look at how much clean water you need to extract lithium, for example, that's massive amounts of water, fresh water you need, as evident from the Andes in Chile and Argentina, where they're extracting the lithium, or in Australia, the world's biggest producer. You need massive amounts of fresh water, which does not really exist because it's not developed. You need huge amounts of mechanical work. You need huge amounts of electricity. And then you need transport to ship all these minerals internally and to the external markets. So without having all this infrastructure, talking about all these mineral wealth in Afghanistan is not really, people don't really know what they're talking about. And therefore, one of the reasons that the Chinese withdrew from the Mes Aynak copper mine is not only security problems, but there are big problems with the infrastructure, with the power, with transport. And also in 2008, we had the international financial crisis, which made the price of commodities collapse. And therefore the interest was not there. But now if we get all the development corridors built and including water projects, which is a big problem. I mean, in Afghanistan, I saw that there was only 60% of people have access to drinking water. That's not water that's coming home to them. These are mostly from wells. But also the mortality rate for children below 5 years of age is very high, but half of it is caused by waterborne disease. And then, of course, if you want to have agriculture, food production, you need water. Now, all these things can be shifted. We can produce the mineral wealth, we can produce food, but we need to build the infrastructure first, which is the transport, power, water, but also the education and healthcare, because you need to improve, as you said, Shakeel, the labor skills of the population, who are mostly young people. So we have all these plans for many years to connect Afghanistan to its surroundings. Some of them involve also the gas pipeline between Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, which the US and NATO were using as a geopolitical tool to avoid working with Iran and Russia and China. But all these projects now, they don't need to be rivalries. They can all, because you take out the geopolitical factor, the geo-economic factor becomes the most important thing, because that deals with the real needs and life of the people, both in Afghanistan and in the region. So I don't know that you wanted to discuss some of the corridors that are planned or discussed. I mean, connecting the CPEC, for example, from Peshawar to Kabul to both Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan has been on the table for a while. So I don't know if you have something to say about these connectivity projects.
Look, so there, first I was talking about how we can, CPEC can be extended very easily towards Afghanistan, because it already has been built up to the Peshawar. So we just have to extend from Peshawar to the other parts of the Afghanistan. So we have even from Balochistan. So we can also extend it through the Chaman border and the other border. So a border area. So Pakistan has many possibilities where the different corridors can be extended towards Afghanistan. The fundamental things which we have to keep in mind. Number one, if you look at the Taliban right now, what they're doing. So they are concentrating on economics. And if you look at that, in every other you can say the press release or the press conference, they're talking about economic linkages, because they know that without economy and the better livings, no rule can be sustained. So that's why they're trying to fight the economic partnerships with all the partners in the region. And in the past, Afghanistan Taliban were considered against the Shia Muslims. But this time, to look at that, they have made arrangements with Iran with Tajikistan. So they will ensure the safety of the Shia Muslims. So let's work on the common grounds of economic development. That is a huge shift. If we look at that, the possessions of 10th Muharram in Afghanistan, so Taliban provided them the full security. Taliban went to their Imam Barga and told them, so we will be providing you the security. So that is they are doing it because they want to sustain peace in the society and then in the region. And that is, they consider the peace is a fundamental thing to kickstart the economic development in the country. And they are asking everybody, they are not asking one or two countries, they are asking every country, look, let's work for the economic development of the country. But there are one or two things which we have to keep in mind. Number one, at this point of the time, so Afghanistan need economic assistance, as I told you already. If the companies and the countries want to invest there, they should not go for the loan sanctioning. They should go for the belt, operate, and transfer module if they are still concerned about their money. If they are not purely going for the economic assistance or economic aid, if they want to go to make a business, the proposal should be build, operate, and transfer. Because that would be key, because the government does not have the money. Afghanistan, if this is because the 1 trillion you are talking about, I don't know where it has went. Because if you look at the statistics of Afghanistan, so that if you look at the development status, you are mentioning about the water, you were mentioning about the health and about the child mortality, and I was also talking about the food insecurity and poverty incident. 1 trillion is a huge amount for the 39 million people. So where they have won. So there is another fundamental thing which the regional country have to acknowledge and consider. Number one, so fundamental mistakes with the Russia and the US made in the past. There I categorize in the two categories. Number one, they try to impose their governance systems, which does not work. That is not the part of this presentation, so I will not work there. The second is most important. That is the disconnect with the people of Afghanistan. Russia and US forces, they were talking to the elite class of Afghanistan. And elite class does not represent the poor people of the country. And they were so much like that. So that elite class, that is present everywhere. That is in the politics, that is even in the media and intellectuals who were supposed to show that the true picture, they were also become the part of the elite. So there was a disconnect between the people and the invaders. Even there were invaders, but still if they want to claim that they have spent the $1 trillion for the development of the people, then again there was a disconnect. They could not understand. And that was the very base from where the Taliban benefited. And they built their momentum from the village side, because the elite class does not show them the real picture. And if you are sitting in Sweden, you must know that so many Western media groups and intellectuals, if they have to do any report or that study, they were just sitting in the Washington DC or in the European some headquarters, they're calling to the people, oh, what is happening there? Tell me like that. So that is total finding of them. So that is, you can say the studies, they were presenting to their government, oh, everything is okay. Things will be, people are celebrating like these things. So the regional country, this point of time, China, Pakistan, Russia, and Iran should not repeat these mistakes. Yes. They try to build the direct linkages with the people, because Pakistan and already have a edge, I told you, because unfortunately Pakistan contribution is not being mentioned. If you look at that, how many Afghanis they have studied in Pakistani institutions, because they were living and they were given the access to the education institutes in Pakistan, and the millions of those people have been studied in Pakistani schools and universities and colleges. So that's why Pakistan know better than, because they're coming back, they're coming back. So Pakistan knows some of situation. So other regional countries, they also have the better understanding. They should come together and try to link to the people, not to just to the somehow some correspondent, the respondent, something like that. They should connect to the people, and they should diversify their economic linkages. So that can be one thing. And second, they should not go far to tell them, so what type of the system you need, because that is a fundamental thing. Afghan does not like it. Either it's economic system, governance system, or the social system. They are the price they are paying for the last more than 40 years. That is the price of exactly that. They don't want to listen what type of the system they should adopt. They are talking about their own system. So other lesson is for the regional countries that work with them, don't dictate them. If you start dictating them, then there is no difference for them. Either you are from the region or you are from the USA or the Western countries.
Right. I think this is one of the important points that both China and the neighboring countries are saying, that this process should be Afghan-led and Afghan-owned. That's the
and
motto.
Inclusive. And look at that. At this point of
inclusive.
time, Taliban, they are talking to each and every sector of the segment of the society. They are talking to the people against whom they were fighting. Like the governor of Helmand or something like that. No, they have joined, that guy has joined the Taliban. Yes. Ahmad Shah Massoud's son, he has also supported the Taliban. Gulbuddin Hikmatyar, The delegation of Afghanistan also met with him to fight a partnership. So everybody, they are talking to everybody. They want to bring everybody on the same page because they are understanding the challenge, a stable, peaceful, and developed Afghanistan is very huge, and no single segment of society can overcome of this challenge. They have to join the hands and they have to put their weapons aside and work for the development of country.
Very well. I think this shows that the era of geopolitics have failed, using military force and geopolitical games to split nations and conquer has failed miserably, and it's to the detriment of the living conditions of Afghani people, but also all their neighbors. Now we have the geography and the physical economic needs of the people, and also their security becomes the primary aspect of this new situation. And as we said, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the neighboring countries is the right environment where you can resolve these things. But what do you think the United States and Europe's contribution should be to this in a positive sense?
I think we should not burden Europe and USA, because they are also very sensible people. It is, I don't think so that this the industrial military complex is the representative of the US, because they are in the minority, but they are controlling the resources. So they should work, and definitely if we are talking about the mineral resources, especially rare earth metals. So if they are explored, so where they have to sell, they need market. And if their industry is working where they have to export, they need markets. So, and also if you know that at this point of the time, the US is the biggest importer of the rare earth metals, and 80% of their rare earth metals are coming from China. So they need rare earth metals. It's a part of every modern technology. So if they are investing in the economic development, and they can also benefit from here. But those investments should be for the economic rationals, not for the geopolitical rationals. Because if you bring back the geopolitical, then the story will be the same. So they can also benefit, and the European countries, they can also learn this. They can invest in the minerals and in the allied infrastructure. But this time they have to connect with the people and the real people. Don't listen to the elite, because the elite is, look at that elite, what elite is doing. Now they're sitting at the airport, take us back to your country. Do you think these are the poor people who are sitting at the airport who will want to flee the country? So they have to work on the economic issues and let the Afghan decide what they want in their society. Don't tell them what is the women's rights. Don't tell them what is their the economic system should be. They know how to deal with all these things. And you, for example, you are sitting in the Europe. If some Afghanistan come to Sweden someday and they say, look, you women should observe the parda. No women should be come out. So what would be the reaction of the Sweden? So this is the same way. If you think your system is better, bring it in a practice. Don't dictate it. That is the fundamental point. So if you don't want to listen, so nobody should question your values. Why you would be given the chance to question the other people's value?
Yeah. No, I think this whole situation has created all these paradoxes in the minds of people, that there's a major failure. We have people here in Europe. The foreign minister of Denmark, he said we need to do some soul searching to find out what went wrong, what did we do wrong. And I think it's at the right moment to come up with new ideas, with the fresh ideas to the fore. And as you said, Shakeel, it's very important to talk to the people and think about the people of Afghanistan, not the elites who will become your friends.
Yes. And one thing I want to, just last thing I want to mention. Look, for the last 20 years, our current president, Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, he was asking the world, military is not the solution. Go for the talk. And everybody was saying he is a Taliban Khan. So ultimately, after 20 years, what he was saying, that has proven right. And nobody is ready to recognize that Pakistan was telling this. In 2010, so our army chief at that point of the time, General Kiani, he gave the 14 points to USA. And the fundamental point was, military is not a solution. Go for the talk and economic development. And nobody listened to him at this point of time. And they were, well, you know that the last decade, everybody was criticizing Pakistan. Oh, Pakistan is doing this. But ultimately, what Pakistan was telling to the world, they're doing exactly the same.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this chapter will be put behind us. Now, everybody needs to learn the lessons, but I think there is a road ahead of us, of everyone, every nation, and to work together to help the Afghani people, both to have to eliminate the poverty, the hunger, all these things, and also to be able to utilize their resources, human resources and natural resources, to become a modern economy. And I think, as we have discussed here, the Belt and Road Initiative is a good vehicle for this, and cooperation between the neighboring nations, but also to involve the United States and Europe into a positive role into this whole process is very important. I thank you very much, Shakeel, for being with us again. And I really appreciate your insights, and I'm sure our audience also appreciates your insights. So we hope to talk again sometime in the near future to see where things have evolved.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure to talk to you, my friend.
Thank you very much also for our audience, and see you in new podcast. Goodbye.
Goodbye.